Hello besties and welcome back to Platform and to another installment of Penguin Explorer, the series where I take some mini deep dives into some cool literary, academic and just overall bookish topics. Today's exploration deals with something that we've all dealt with in one way or another and has either had the chance to flourish or destroy our love of reading, and that is the pressure to read. Today's thesis statement would be that we have in some way experienced the pressure to read in our lives, whether it's through education, the bookish community, or just overall the fear of missing out. However, whilst being pressured can be seen as bad, as it may conjure a reading slump, some people have also figured out ways that pressure could be good for reading progress. There are a multitude of reasons why we sometimes feel pressure to read. However, I think there are three major causes to the average reader. The pressure from education, the pressure from the bookish community, and also the pressure that stems from the fear of missing out, or FOMO. Now, as with any research, you can't just throw out statements like this without having something to back it up, which is why I took it to Instagram stories in order to ask people a few questions, and we got a general pool of like 4,000 people answering my polls, which is a very good amount of data collection. From this poll of 4,000 people, we had a staggering 78% of people say that they do still sometimes feel the pressure to read, which proves that reading pressures do affect a substantial ratio of readers. 59% of the 4,000 people also then admitted that being in education made them feel pressured to read. I remember a lot in high school where we were often pressured to read books because they were on the curriculum, and sometimes even if I didn't like the book, I had to see it through to the end because I had to write an exam on it or I had to write an essay on it, and it really made me just not like it whatsoever. And it's especially hard in these situations because you're in high school and you're developing like your interests and your hobbies, and being forced to read a book that you don't like may make or break someone's love for reading. And it's so tough because we see so many people then fall in love with reading much later down the line because they actually get the choice of what they want to read then. So during this stage and looking back, if I had to give any advice to anyone in education that is feeling pressured to read any book, I would say have another book that you read outside of school, that you read for pleasure, and that you have it on the go, because then you have a kind of balance between reading something that you enjoy and reading something that you need to read critically for school, because otherwise you'll just have quite a negative outlook on reading, and that's not always good. It just allows you to refill that well of enjoyment that reading can provide. But also this one hits especially home for me because I've studied 3 years of an English literature degree, and I've also studied English literature for the majority of my life, and so I know the pressure that stems from reading, but also the pressure of having to read certain books in order to fit in, which happens a lot in education because of the elitism of reading classics. And that is a whole separate deep dive I could go into surrounding like the elitism of the classics and why we really shouldn't be elitist about people not having read classical literature. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But these feelings can spawn imposter syndrome within a lot of literature students, which is very hard to deal with. However, take it from me, your love of literature is what's most important here. No matter what books you've read, your love of literature will get you through it. 70% then of the 4,000 readers then responded that being in the book community actually also pressures them to read as well. From what people said on Instagram, this stems from a few different reasons. The amount of books people read, to the speed in which people read books, to the pressure of having to keep up with new and popular releases. The book community can be a great place where you can find like-minded people who read similar books to you. You can make new friends, discuss very important like ships and books that you have read. However, every community also has its drawbacks and its negatives. You can feel left out of the conversation if you haven't read a certain book, or you can feel like an underachiever sometimes because someone has read like 15, 20 books this month and you've only read 2 or 3. But everyone reads at different paces and everyone enjoys different tastes. And so if you haven't read like 20 books a month, that's completely okay because you're reading at a pace that's comfortable for you. And we shouldn't force ourselves to read a lot more books because we may just end up not enjoying them as much as if we took the slower route. Plus, if you haven't read a new or popular release yet, don't worry because the community of people who love that book will still be there when you eventually get to it. Like, I have only recently read Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and the fandom is still very much alive and kicking, and I'm still finding a lot more people who want to discuss this book with me. So So take it from me, if you don't read a new release until like 10 years after it's released, people will still be there to discuss it with you when you finally get to it. And it's something that I've definitely had to like unlearn, and like the pressure of trying to read everything right away, because it can be stressful and it can be hard, but just read it within your own time and the people will still be there for you when you finish it. Plus, if you haven't read a popular book yet, find other people who haven't read that book or want to reread it and buddy read it with them. It's a great way to make new friends, and also is a great way to discuss the book as you go through it. Plus, if you buddy read it, you can set it at a pace that's comfortable for everyone. So you can read like, let's say, a few chapters a week and get through the book in like 2-3 months, or just get through it within the month. It's a way for people to feel like they are actually being respected in terms of their reading speeds. Overall though, it's mostly about finding the balance between, do I actually want to read this book, or do I actually just want to partake in the conversation and just know what everyone else is on about? So leading on to that, 75% of the 4,000 people then said that the fear of missing out pressures them to read. I know, especially as a bookish content creator, how the fear of missing out can make you feel like you're going to be left out of the conversation or left behind if you haven't read a certain series or new book release. However, like I just previously mentioned, the books are still going to be there a year later, still going to be there 2 years later. It's just all about finding the time that's right for you in order to read it. Like, I think we shouldn't pressure ourselves to read every single new release right away. We should just take it as we see it, because we're never going to read every book that comes out. We're never going to read every book in existence. And so basically finding the ones that you're wanting to be personally interested in and then reading those first and foremost, great. And then if you want to read like books that are popular and new after that, sure. And I definitely get wanting to be on those conversations, but like I said, they'll still be there when you want to get to them. This is basically me and Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere at the moment. I've been putting it off and I really want to get in on the conversations, and I do feel that fear of missing out, but I'm getting to it in my own time, because otherwise if I pressure myself to read that series, I'm not going to enjoy it as much if I just read it when I'm ready to and actually want to. Now, I know I've spoken about pressure being an inherently bad thing. However, can pressure also be a good thing? A few people responded to an Instagram question sticker I put up about any further details about the pressure of reading they wanted to include, and a few of them did say that actually a little bit of pressure helps them like read books, helps them read books faster, and also just makes them want to read more. It allows them to be pulled out of a reading slump and actually allows them to continue forth, see what new and popular books are out there. They also say that a little bit of pressure actually helps them also discover new books and new genres as well. One person responded that they would never have read translated fiction if it wasn't for the translated fiction I did on my channel a few months ago. It gave them the boost and the little bit of pressure that they needed to discover translated fiction and find a book that works for them. I mean, certainly from my experience being part of a book club and being a bookish content creator, there has been a little bit of pressure on me to do new and innovative videos, and so it means reaching out of my comfort zone and reading books that I don't usually gravitate towards. And perhaps I probably wouldn't have picked up these books in the first place, but with that pressure, I've actually found the majority of the time that I've enjoyed a bunch of new picks and have discovered new genres of reading that I probably wouldn't have read before. So a bit of pressure can actually be good for readers as well, and actually allows them to discover new things, be a better reader, but also allows them to be a part of the wider conversations. However, too much pressure can actually destroy the love of reading. I mean, speaking from experience, too much pressure to read for me in my first year of university completely destroyed my love of reading, and I didn't really pick up a book for pleasure until 2 years after. 2 years! I was in a reading slump for 2 years. It's all about knowing when the pressure is getting to be too much and putting a halt on that once it gets there. And so how do we ease this pressure of reading? How do we ensure that the pressure doesn't build to too much and throw us into that reading slump? It's something that'll be different for everyone, and whilst I believe that a little bit of pressure can be good for a lot of reasons, I mean, especially as someone who has ADHD, pressure can help me be more productive. Too much pressure is never good. So in terms of alleviating this pressure, I believe taking a step back and reassessing the situation is a great way of doing that. Is your Goodreads or Storygraph goal a bit too high? Lower it, make it work for you. You haven't read the latest release that came out just last week? It's fine. It'll be there for you when you're ready. You read 1 book a month? Amazing. I'm so proud of you, because one book a month is still a book, and you're still a reader no matter how many books you read. Don't like a specific genre? It's fine, you don't have to read it. If people are talking about fantasy and you prefer sci-fi, you can just wait until they've finished discussing about fantasy and then gear the conversation towards more sci-fi books, or just find readers who also enjoy sci-fi and start a friendship with them. But now, as we've come to the end of this mini deep dive today, I want you to go down in the comment section down below and give a book recommendation or two, and give them something that's light, easy, probably good for the summer. For me, I'll be giving two series recommendations that I think will help alleviate that pressure. One is a middle grade series and the other one is a graphic novel series, both of which are really easy to read and will help, and both of them have plenty of people within their fandoms so that you can find people to discuss these with. And so the very first one is Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Rick Riordan, which I previously mentioned in this video. The series is just phenomenal and amazing. I'm currently working my way through the Heroes of Olympus series, and then the second series I'm going to be recommending is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. This is a graphic novel series that just literally blew my mind. It is so amazing, so like heartwarming, and literally has such a dedicated fandom. Plus, both of these picks are having TV show adaptations, and so there'll definitely be a lot more people within these fandoms in the years to come. So they're great, easy, breezy things to read, and will definitely help alleviate that pressure of reading. And so wraps the third installment of Penguin Explorer. I hope you enjoyed today's video and that this just basically gave you a little bit of insight into why people feel pressured to read all the time and why having too much pressure on you can actually do more harm than good. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and be sure to check out the rest of Platform's content because they are so awesome. And I know my friend Tasmin recently did a video on Chinese literature, which you should definitely go and check out. And be sure to subscribe as well so that you can see the next installment of Penguin Explorer and see what I'm going to be discussing next time. If you'd like to see more of what I do, you can find me over at Fictional Fates on YouTube or my other social media, which will be linked in the description down below. I just do a lot of bookish content and it's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing. My corner of the internet is very chill and slightly chaotic. And so until the next time, see you later, Platform.